All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real News Live, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. Welcome to Real News Live. I'm your host, Mike Barra, in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday, starring the usual crew, including, of course, the man to my immediate right, my stage left, Dr. Brooks Agnew. Brooks, how you doing tonight? What are you drinking? I'm having a little scotch with my Dr. Pepper just for that.
I had a wonderful day, got a lot done, and I'm drinking ice water, trying to rehydrate.
Water. Gotta rehydrate, right? And a man immediately below him, kitty corner to me, that means diagonal for you people that are over, or under 50 years old.
Diagonal.
It's TV's Blake Wally, the intrepid cub reporter for the New American Media. Blake, how you doing? What are you drinking? And the night shift hasn't shown up yet to the strip club there in Nashville.
Yeah, it's early at 8 o'clock, so we'll get ready, prepared for later. Can't wait, but it's also exciting to be here, as always, and I will be drinking a little Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark, all right, good stuff. And, of course, the fourth, but not the last member of the team, the cleanup hitter, the stud, the guy that you don't want to piss off because he'll shoot you 15 times very accurately with his 22. Steve Doran, the Trail Boss. Steve, how you doing out there in Arkansas? And what are you enjoying tonight? You enjoying a little alcohol or something else?
Actually, I am rewarding myself with a cigar. I've got a Park Avenue Churchill. I'm not really drinking anything because I'm sitting by the fire on the ranch. And so it's kind of not conducive to having a drink in my hand because I can't do the show, smoke a cigar, and have a drink at the same time.
Churchill, is that like a British cigar?
No,
tasty?
It's actually it's just the type of cigar, like the size of it.
Okay, absolutely cool stuff. All right, guys, let's get started. Lot of stuff to talk about. By the way, who had World War III on their Thanksgiving bingo card? Not me, but we're going to start actually somewhere else. We're going to start somewhere a little bit more positive before we get to the heavy stuff. Today, SpaceX made the 6th launch of their Starship rocket, and they make progress every single time. The cool thing is, when they make mistakes, it seems like they fix those mistakes, and the next time back, everything is better. But let's take a quick look, because today, Elon Musk at, what do they call it? Starship Central, the Starship Cosmodrome, I don't know, whatever it is, down there in Boca Chica, Texas, they launched another rocket today, and it is big, and it is cool, and President-elect Trump was there to see it.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4, 3, 2, 1.
We're really trying to push this around.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Booster Raptor, chamber pressure nominal.
Booster and ship, avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
All right, we're just a little over a minute
maximum
into flight.
Dynamic pressure.
We're about 6 miles away, so all the sound's still hitting us here. Hearing good call-outs that power, telemetry nominal. That's
all right. And then they brought the booster back after the stage separation. They brought the booster back and landed that or splashed that down.
We saw earlier those grid fins. There are 4 hypersonic grid fins. Or we can see that the landing burn has begun on the Super Heavy booster.
And same pattern, 13 engines were light, gone down to 3 just as we expected. And what an incredible view of splash.
We saw earlier those grid fins. There are 4.
Cool stuff. So, guys, I guess I just want to sort of, bring this up because I think it's indicative of the future that America has in front of it with, is that dog, Steve?
That would be Noah, the great
Noah.
Pyrenees, who guards
Not
everything on
dog.
the property.
Not dog. Anyway, then there were some issues like they cut away, Brooks. They cut away from the booster splashdown right after it splashed down, and then the main rocket, the actual Starship, which is an incredible size, did a suborbital flight, landed in the Indian Ocean. They brought it down. They were using backup old heat shield technology to test a few things on the airframe. And then when it splashed down, which it did successfully, it soft splashed down, but then it seemed to break into a couple pieces and then they cut away right away, which I don't like. I think SpaceX should show us everything, but that's just me. But here's what's amazing. If you think about this thing has 33 engines on it, each one of which is as powerful as 4 of the 5 Saturn V engines from the Apollo program. That's extraordinary. It's now been 2 or 3 missions where every single engine, Raptor engine, has worked perfectly. And Brooks, I kind of get excited here because I think if this pattern keeps going, they're launching like once a month now. I think we're going to go to Mars sooner than later. And you know me, I got some ideas about some shit they could look at on Mars.
Well, they're going to try to land on Mars. That would be a great achievement if they could do that. It'll be unmanned, of course, but they're also going to be launching to the moon, and this is where the gold rush is. I know they're focused on Mars, but the moon is where the money is, and if he lands Starship on the moon, it's going to be there for everybody to see. And you're right, the Koreans say "Banbokhan iden hwakshinil kajinda." It means with repetition comes confidence. And that is what SpaceX is doing. Not like NASA, where they launch once a year. Once a month, once every 3 weeks. This is going to make the learning curve achievable. And pretty soon they're going to have reliable and repeatable systems that work every single time. Yeah,
it is pretty extraordinary technology. And that we all know that the moon is very mineral rich. The helium-3 there could, supply the world's energy needs for the next, 5,000 years or so. Modern technology as it stands now. Blake, do you see anything significant symbolically about this? To me, I thought it was great because it's a sign of, where America's headed with the new dawn of the new Trump administration. Any thoughts on that, or anything philosophical you want to add, or just in general, do you think this is cool, or do you think it's a waste of time?
No, I think it's amazing. I think, NASA's been a huge letdown over the years because it seemed like there's been a lot. The space station's cool, but maybe I don't pay a lot of attention to that. But I'm also looking at it as, the inefficiency of government, and then looking at this, private industry and Elon kind of doing this himself. So that is also very cool to see that human innovation without all these bureaucracy in the way. So it could be like the new gold rush or what have you, if we can somehow get to the moon and be able to traverse back and forth and do whatever they need to be done. It'd be a whole exciting new chapter for human history if we survive.
Yeah, it's almost like that movie Gattaca with what's his name,
Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman, and what's his name, and who? Ethan Hunt. Yeah, where Ethan Hawke. Where they're Ethan Hunt is the Mission Impossible character Tom Cruise played, but where they're launching 3 times a week. Steve Doran, does this have any significance for you, or do you not really give a flying fuck what's on the moon or on Mars? And do you think it could be used as part of a disclosure process of disclosing stuff that we're not supposed to know that we have?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that private industry is running circles around NASA. I always
Yeah.
thought NASA was a big waste of money. I always refer to it as nasty because all they do is waste money. And then you get some kid with $50 in his pocket that gets better pictures with a disposable camera and a balloon than they do with a $50 bazillion camera lens. So it's always fantastic to see private industry outdo the government, which they do all the time. We know that anything the government does, they do it very poorly. So that being said, that my bodyguard dog. Anyway, that being said, I hope they go to the moon. As I said before, I really don't care about Mars. I'd like to see them hit the moon first. And what this is reminiscent of to me is when I was a kid, I used to watch those in the middle of the night on a Friday night. They would have like Buck Rogers movies from the 1920s, and the landing of those rockets remind me of those movies where you would see the cylindrical rocket, land and wherever the heck they were going.
Yeah, Mingo or wherever they landed on their backside. Yeah, it is pretty amazing, and I think it's a sign of how things are going to be in the future. Laura's saying Trump's presidential doctor is behind him, Ronnie Johnson. I believe it is Dr. Ronnie Johnson. My friend the mechanic knows that him personally. He is always with Donald Trump carrying what looks like a bowling ball bag, and in that bag is every antidote to every poison known to man is in that bag. And he follows Trump around constantly. So yeah, it was to me, it was just really cool. Rick Norman says, I'm just as bad as flat earthers. There are people out there who don't believe we've ever gotten past the Van Allen radiation belt. Well, we were traveling about 25,000 miles an hour, which at that speed, you're going to go through the Van Allen belts in less than 45 minutes. And remember, radiation is intensity plus exposure. They also knew where the thin parts were and where the thick parts were, and they flew through the thin parts at 25,000 miles an hour, and they had shielding. So, again, we never went to the moon people just suck it up and go away. Now, let's get to the really important stuff. I would put up the Ukraine flag, but I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm not quite sure what to start. Why don't we listen a little bit to Alex Jones from early today, who, by the way, got InfoWars back. All of a sudden, that evaporated. But let's listen a little bit to Alex Jones, and then we'll talk about that. That's the wrong one. Is that the one I want? That's the one I want. Let's see what Alex has to say about the events over in Russia today.
It is Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. You're seeing footage of long-range, high-speed, U.S.-made ATACMS missiles blowing up a Russian military base 300 kilometers inside Russia. And they're promising to rain down hundreds of these a week inside Russia to elicit a massive response. This is a proxy war between the West and Russia. Imagine if Russia said, we're going to start bombing targets in the United States, or if in Vietnam, the Vietnamese said, we're going to start attacking targets inside the United States. Or in the Korean War, if Korea started launching attacks inside the United States, what would you do?
And that is the good question. What would you do? And this was authorized a couple of days ago by the Biden administration, throwing a little gasoline on the fire.
Am I the only one that can't hear Mike?
I can't hear.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Your microphone went out. Yeah.
Oh.
Or it came disconnected or something.
We can hear you. We can.
Okay.
Late today, President Zelensky saying the missiles will.
All right. We can skip that. But, okay, here's the deal. The Biden administration did authorize the use of U.S. weapons, U.S. missiles on attacks inside Russia. This has not happened since Hitler invaded in Operation Barbarossa in 1941. Russia has not been attacked like this. This is a deliberate provocation by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their administration. It is an attempt to start an all-out war between the United States and Russia, or NATO and Russia, which is basically going to be the same thing, for the purpose, folks, of subverting the election that took place 2 weeks ago, because they're hoping that they can then argue, well, now we're at war, Joe Biden is a wartime president, or he's removed and Kamswala Horis is a wartime president, and they can't be removed during a war that evil Putin started, which of course is BS. But they are attempting to do this, I believe, simply so they can stay in power. And these are, in my mind, Brooks, both impeachable offenses. Am I wrong? What do you think about this? This is the most insane shit I have ever seen in my adult life by behavior by the United States government that was never elected.
Well, I've been struggling all day with finding a way to explain actually what happened. The Biden administration did not authorize the use of these missiles. The New York Times did. This did not come from the White House. There's no direct statement from the White House. The president didn't come out and say it. The New York Times said it. And the next day, they start launching missiles into Russia. Now, at first, they launched 6 of them. Well, all 6 were shot down successfully. One of them did catch an area on fire, but there were no casualties. The problem with this is it gives the green light to France to start authorizing Scalp missiles and Britain to authorize Storm Shadow. Now, Storm Shadow can go a lot further than 300 miles into Russia. It has a much longer range. But the list of targets that come up, there are about 400 targets inside of Russia that they could hit. So the decision to counterstrike has already been made in Russia. It was made months ago, and they drew the line. They said, if you attack, we will consider it an act of war from the West on us, and we will respond accordingly. And Lavrov made a statement today that he hopes President Trump makes some kind of move to stop this because they want peace just as much as we do. And if this escalates, I think what should happen, it may happen in the next 24 hours, I don't know, Donald Trump should come out and make a statement that on January 20th, he will end NATO. He will pull all the funding from NATO and he will say, we're not going to support you anymore. Now, France and Britain, if you want to send your experts into Ukraine and start launching this, Ukraine can't launch these on their own. They require satellites and all kinds of stuff that are run by Britain and France and the US. President Trump should say, you are on your own now. If you're attacked by Russia, there's no Article 5. Nobody's coming to your rescue. You do this on your own and you suffer the consequences on your own. That's what he should say. Now, they could scream Logan Act all they want. It's unenforceable. Donald Trump has been elected. Congress has the power to declare war, and yet war has been declared. What the fuck is going on? Presidents cannot declare war. It's unconstitutional, immediately impeachable. And Biden and Harris should be removed from office right now. Trump should be put in on emergency powers by Congress.
Well, yeah, and assuming that Mike Johnson doesn't want the job, you actually would have the president pro tempore step in, which would be Patty Murray under the current Senate. But if one guy switches it's Chuck Grassley. Steve, you're a military guy. I'm going to go to you next before I go to Blake. You don't poke the bear when he's just sleeping or when he's just sitting there. You don't poke him. You don't go up to him and poke him. You don't piss him off. You don't go after his cubs. And you sure as shit don't do it when he has nukes, do you?
No. Well, first of all, this whole Ukrainian thing is ridiculous. It's been ridiculous from the beginning. All Russia wants to do is compete in the world market. They want to sell their goods to the rest of the world. They want to make money. They want to be wealthy like the United States. They don't want to take over any specific territories, but they also want to protect their borders, and that's why they don't want NATO in the Ukraine. So everything they're doing is the same thing that we would be doing if the shoe was on the other foot. All of these things that are going on, Putin is showing very good restraint. He knows that when Trump gets in office, all this baloney is going to stop. And so he's kind of holding back on what he could be doing right now. And he's waiting for Trump to take power. He knows that this is the current deep state just trying to stir the pot, but he will only allow them to go so far before he responds to it. I agree with Brooks that Trump needs to make a statement that when he takes over, that he will completely defund NATO. He won't be a part of it. He will pull out of the United Nations. He will no longer be a part of that and ask them to leave the United States, and that he won't be a part of their warmongering just for the sake of starting a war with a country that really wants to be a peaceful entity and just, like I said, make money like we do. So I think we're going to see several things unfold over the next few days. But one of the things that, Elon Musk provided Ukraine with Starlink. The first thing he should do is flip the switch and shut it off to shut down all their communications so they can't use it any longer. That would be a good move on his part.
Yeah, that's I don't disagree with that at all. Brooks, you have something else you want to add?
I just wanted to say what this boils down to is NATO is making national security decisions for us. NATO is putting us at risk because, and that can't happen. The president needs to step in and say only the United States will make national security decisions for the United States. No. You will not make decisions for us.
Especially when you look at the buffoons who are running the United Nations and NATO.
Yeah. Well, we have a diaper wearing pedophile pretending to be president who was never elected. This is what happens when you do that. When stolen elections have consequences. They continue to have consequences. The question is what's going to happen. Now, I don't think Putin is going to take the bait, but he may have to. You're killing Russians now inside Russia. And these weapons cannot be used, as Brooks pointed out, without American and British and French intel cooperation at the very least. That makes them part of this. And remember what John F. Kennedy said in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We will consider any attack launched from Cuba on the United States to be an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, and will require a full retaliatory response. He screwed it up. Response. That's what I see.
He will retaliate. He won't retaliate. I don't believe he'll retaliate with nuclear weapons. He will retaliate, but like I said, he's showing very good restraint, and he's showing good restraint because he knows soon that Donald Trump will be in office. Yeah,
but there's a lot of bad shiz that can go down between now and then. Blake, I got to get your opinion on this. You're not you're not the military guy that the other two dudes are, but you're a common sense American with some common sense. How does this insanity look to you? And of course, if they do what Brooks did, which is Trump says, if you guys don't stop this, I'm pulling us out of NATO. I'm pulling us out of the UN. That'll make all the blue hairs go even crazier. But what do you think about the situation? And what do you think we do if Putin hits back into Ukraine or hits back British or French or American facilities, which I think he's justified in doing right now?
Yeah, that could be absolutely disastrous. Hopefully he won't do it to us because he knows about, the transition that's going down. So as Steve has said, he's holding, restraint so he doesn't overreact to this because we know what's about to happen. And as you say, Mike, this could be really bad if we're using our weapons and, NATO intelligence or what have you. And we should be absolutely pulling out of NATO if they're trying to push us into a war. I mean, you're poking the Russian bear. I mean, things have been relatively calm as far as I know. So all of a sudden, why do they want to go on some kind of crazy offensive into Russia when they know that this is going to lead us? He's not just going to sit there on his ass and not do anything. We just don't want to do a nuclear war, but we are funding basically a proxy war We know Trump is also, calling for peace, and this is a lame duck period when they shouldn't be doing anything unless it's purely defensive and national security, which is clearly not. So it seems the obvious play is that they want to stay in power. If they can kick off a war going, use some emergency powers, then they stay there and Trump is on the sideline. But that's going to be a battle all in itself. So we'll see. They're making a big move.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that this is nothing more than a crass political move to try to keep the Democrats in power because, look, the jig is up, okay? Once Trump gets in there, this war ends, Ukraine is exposed. And by the way, I understand Trump told Zelensky the next time he comes to Washington and the White House, he's expected to wear a suit and tie or he won't be admitted. I heard that one. That was good. Yeah, get out of your camo gear, dude. But this is the most corrupt country on earth. There's child trafficking, there's drug running, there's money laundering going on in that country. We all know this, and we've been all this money that we've been sending there is actually going back into the pockets of American politicians. And once Trump cuts that off, he cuts off the siphon there. That's it. They're done. Their side doesn't have any money sources left. So this is an attempt, I think, a crass attempt to protect that. And they don't care if they start World War III. And they don't care how many people die as long as they stay in power. So
I got want people to die anyway. They want to reduce the population of the world to begin with.
Exactly.
So more people dying makes them happy.
And by the way, you say this is a U.S. proxy war or a proxy war going on. Well, is it? Because there are some interesting reports out there on that I posted. I posted a video that Fox News posted today, and let's just take a look at that. And I want you guys to look at this video real closely.
By Russia to assist the 50,000 Russian soldiers preparing to retake Russian territory seized by Ukraine in August. U.S. officials tell me it was Putin's decision to expand the war and invite North Korean troops in to fight Ukraine that led to President Biden's reversal. President Zelensky referenced this while addressing the European Parliament today. Just north of Kursk, where 11,000 North Korean troops are deployed.
Anybody notice anything interesting about that video that they would like to comment on? Anybody?
Well, they're not North Koreans, not that I could see.
They might be Asians, they might be North Koreans, but look at that guy in the middle. How many black North Korean soldiers do you think they are?
I'm saying.
How many black Russian soldiers do you think they are? I would say there are 0. These are Americans. These are American mercenaries, or I mean, they could be Asian. It's hard to tell from the crappy video. This video came from the BBC. It was repeated by Fox News today. Don't you think they're telling us that actually we're on the ground? If this is in Russia, then that means I think that there's American troops on the ground in Russia supplying and supporting logistically North Korean troops. Does that make any fucking sense at all, Brooks?
Not authorized by Congress. Congress has 3 jobs: write laws, declare wars,
yeah,
and assess taxes. That's the 3 jobs that set the purse strings. That's what Congress does. Do your job. Congress needs to step up and say, this ends right now. You cannot operate under the War Powers Act and aggressively attack another country. It doesn't work that way. NATO has aggressively attacked and destroyed or taken over 63 sovereign countries since it was formed. This is a war between Russia and NATO, not Russia and Ukraine.
All right, I agree with that, and also, if you look at this, there's also, by the way, a statement. Where is it? Let's slide over here. Serbian President Vučić says that Putin is not going to hesitate using nuclear weapons if necessary. If the security of Moscow is threatened, if Putin sees that there is no other way out, he will not hesitate for a minute. So we have this escalating situation going on there, guys. Blake, what if there's if there's Americans on the ground there, what the hell are they doing there? And how did they get there? And who the hell is that black? I mean, if that is authentic video from Russia and those are Korean troops, what the hell's going on? You got any ideas?
Not on that side. I figured they would, in Ukraine, maybe they could get people in there, mercenaries, Americans, but that would be totally bizarre. And that's another problem with Russia. If we get involved with there, they also have China and Iran as potential allies. I'm assuming they would take the Russian side, and then we're embroiled in the civilization-ending war. But no, I have no explanation for why there would be American troops being put into Russia as to protect against what? Because I don't even know if there's even an invading army to go into Russia. Sure, they could fire off some missiles, but where are they going to get the troops to go there? I don't know. It's very bizarre.
Russia, Russia is currently using military contractors to fight this war against the Ukraine. So, it's not beyond reasonable, since they are using a mercenary force, to have people from different countries of different colors that are there assisting in the assault. I mean, that has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah, and you would know more about that than me. But Brooks, I mean, there are anti-Azov, anti-Nazi militias that were operating in Zaporozhye and the the whole Donbass region.
Mhm.
They've been there wiping these guys out since the beginning of this war, and you talked about it forever. Do you see this as being any of them? Is that some of these guys? Any thoughts on that at all, or do you know?
I have two friends that were killed in Donetsk. One was from Texas. His name was Russell Bentley. He was captured, tortured, and killed, as his wife reported to us. It's sad, but he felt inspired to go help the DPR. The DPR is the Donetsk People's Republic. And they were battling against Victoria Nuland's Nazis, who were being sent in there to kill them street by street. And they were wearing SS uniforms. And some of them were Al-Qaeda. And they fought them street by street. And Russell really, really celebrated when Russia finally moved in and started fighting back. But Russia did two things when they went in first. You'd think they'd go right in and cut Kiev off, but that's not what they did. The first thing they did is they sent a convoy of buses, and the buses went to the orphanages, the orphans of all the Russians that have been killed since 2014 by Victoria Nuland. All these orphans were being sold all over the world and being used in bioweapons labs in Ukraine. So Putin sent in buses, and he emptied all the orphanages and moved those kids to Moscow. And he left word, don't you dare touch one of these buses as we attempt to leave with them. We're getting the kids out. That's the first thing he did. The second thing he did is he did a fake convoy to Kiev to have the Azov battalion withdraw from their invasion forces that were getting ready to go into Crimea and wipe it out, by the way. They'd cut off the water already, and they were getting ready to invade. And they didn't back off. Boris Johnson went in, tore up the agreement, and they didn't back off. So he did a fake invasion, a fake convoy heading for Kiev that you could see from space. And that's exactly what happened. The Azovs backed off. They crossed the river. Russia blew the bridges, went in and took out Azovstal and freed Zaporizhzhia. And the Nazis never invaded Crimea. And then he built the Kerch Bridge. Holy crap. The eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
To supply Crimea, because Crimea in 2014 had an election and they voted to become Russian citizens so they could be protected from NATO. NATO was already moving planes and artillery into Crimea. And the Crimeans said, no, that's not going to happen. And so they became Russian citizens, and that stopped it. And that's what caused Johns, Kerry, and McCain to start the coup and try to assassinate President Yanukovych.
Yeah. Guys, these are not old videos. These are concurrent videos. Those uniforms look different. They're not Vietnam era uniforms.
No, they're not.
their North Korean uniforms or their Russian uniforms. That's all. That's why they look different. That's
standard fatigues. One size fits all.
Yeah, that's kind of nonsense. So, okay, gentlemen. I guess where this should lead is it should lead to the impeachment and removal of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
immediately,
and everybody else in the military chain of command. And I guess somebody apparently has decided they're going to maybe try to do that, because apparently some articles of impeachment are either have been filed or are about to be filed. Let's check in with Alex Jones again on this one.
As you know, this new attack with the attackums, technically under the international laws of war, this qualifies as an act of war. And President Putin would be entitled to treat an act of war by the United States of America. And President Putin would be entitled to treat this as an act of war and respond accordingly. And indeed, as you know, he has already stated that an attack by a non-nuclear state in cooperation with a nuclear state such as the United States would make both states co-belligerents against Russia. So the predicate is set there for a war between Russia and the United States. You recall we discussed this, I think it was a year ago, about the dangers presented. It does seem to me that what Biden, or if you want to call them the Bidenites, are trying to do is to sabotage President Trump's peace initiative for Ukraine that he has spoken about, and also Vice President-elect Vance has spoken about, and that they both truly want to set into place, which I believe they can do. And what they have done now is significantly ratchet it up, make it more dangerous. And in my opinion, the Bidenites would like to get us into a shooting war with Russia, so that they could hand that over to President Trump and make it extremely difficult for him to pursue a peaceful resolution over Ukraine. So,
okay, so that's one angle, and apparently what they're discussing is the possibility of filing articles of impeachment on these guys. Blake, do you think there's any chance of that? And is it going to go anywhere if they do?
It's only like, 60 days or something? I don't know how that would even take place, and I don't even know who to go after.
It only takes about 30 minutes to start World War III. So just,
yeah, exactly. And who's running the country? I mean, when have we seen Biden? He makes a cameo like once a month now. And so Kamala, I don't know. She's distraught. I don't know. She's probably somewhere getting drunk right now. I mean, who's in charge? So how are they possibly able to run some kind of offensive here at this late in the hour? So yeah, if there's a way to, expedite an impeachment, let it happen. But I mean, the public should have to know about this. And Brooks is right. This has to be done by Congress. So we didn't approve of any of this. Nobody wants to get involved in this.
Right. That was Dr. Francis Boyle, who is the UN's Human Rights and War Crimes, basically, commissioner. And he said it's a war crime. What they're doing is, and that Putin is completely within his rights to defend his country on this. Brooks, you think there's any chance that we're going to get articles of impeachment out of this and removal of these guys?
We might get them voted on in Congress, but they're just going to die in the Senate, because this is the old Senate, not the new Senate, and Kamala Harris has the tie-breaking vote, so it'll go nowhere. The new leader, John Thune, he's not going to bring up the articles of impeachment. It'll never get voted on. What this is, the global syndicate is telling the American people, how dare you have an election and try to undo what we're trying to do. We're trying to destroy Russia, and then we're coming for you. How dare you have an election and try to stop us? We will show you how powerful we are.
Steve, is it time for somebody in the military to grow a pair and stage A military coup in Washington, D.C.
Well, I mean,
we're not advocating that.
I'm going to say no. But they do have the ability to drag their feet, not render assistance to the Ukraine, to make sure that the weapons that are being sent over there don't work as they should, that type of thing. Sort of a technical coup against the deep state. But, you know, again, I don't believe that there's going to be any impeachment. There's not going to be any vote on it. Again, I agree with Brooks 100%. This is a deep state thumbing their nose, saying no matter who you vote into office, we're still in charge. We're going to do what we want, when we want, how we want to do it. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And, you know, there is no hell deep enough for these people. As they said in the great film, Big Trouble in Little China, I hope all these people get sent to the hell where people are skinned alive. That would be great. All right, guys, let's move a little bit flip over to politics. Of course, the Democrats are losing their shit because Trump won. They've stolen now 4 Senate seats, which I fail to understand, and we should talk about this. Why isn't Trump or anybody talking about these 4 or 5? They're attempting to make it 5. They're attempting now to steal the Pennsylvania Senate seat. That got shot down by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They finally said, look, you know, it's over. Stop counting. The Republican guy won. But that still leaves 4 Senate seats in Wisconsin and Michigan and Arizona and Nevada, which were clearly stolen. And as somebody pointed out, does anybody ever remember where they kept counting votes for weeks and the Republican ended up winning? No, because it's never happened. It's always only the Democrat that wins. They have these people dead to rights. Why haven't the Trump administration acted on this? Any thoughts on that? TV's Blake Wally.
I guess I'm just hoping that he'll do something once he gets into power. He doesn't want to make waves, but I mean, if they have them dead to rights and they can prove that there was some kind of a voter fraud and they're in a position to do something about it, or perhaps send the marshals into Maricopa and Runbeck and what have you, because that doesn't make any sense. How could they vote for Trump, but then they voted for Ruben Gallego?
Yeah, who's more radical than Kamswala Horace. Yeah, amazing.
Who nobody even knows.
Yeah, and nobody knows.
Right. They all love Gary Lake, up by double digits for the governor, and then somehow loses to this unknown guy in the Senate. No, the people there love Gary Lake. So they're clearly doing something until they can prove that they're right, which they won't. So let's hope that Trump does. And good on Shapiro in Pennsylvania for saying, okay, this is over. I know the guy served for 3 terms, but it looks like he lost. So hopefully that'll stay that way. But yeah, as soon as we're not paying attention, they will try to steal whatever they can.
Brooks, why are the Trump and the Republicans not doing anything about this?
I don't know. I mean, I know Laura Trump's on it. I know that her lawyers are there. I know they're trying to get lawsuits going. It's just not getting any press. We had the same thing happen here in North Carolina. Trump won North Carolina hands down. We have a super majority of Republicans in the House and the Senate. And somehow this no name, nobody knows him, no one's ever heard of him before, Josh Stein, a Democrat, wins governor. It makes 0 sense, but no one's saying anything about it in this state.
Okay. Steve, what would you do if you were working for Donald Trump? And how would you be advising him on this cheating scandal that's been going on?
Well, I mean, I would definitely have him making statements that once he takes office, that he will launch the biggest voter fraud investigation in the history of this nation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that is bizarre, especially in the state of Arizona, is you actually had ballots where they voted for the senator and they didn't vote for anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is unheard of, that you have all these ballots voting for a guy that's unheard of, the Democrat, to get him the Senate seat, but they don't vote for president. They don't vote for the local officials. They don't vote for anybody, just the senator.
Yeah, they're called single dot.
That right there totally screams voter fraud.
If you threw all those votes out in all the 4 states that are disputed, the Republican would win every single one of those races. There's no question. Those are all
when have you ever voted in any election and voted for one person
No,
and nobody else.
no living, breathing human being has ever done that.
Well, they're called single dot ballots, and they're fraudulent. The thing about Arizona, when I had my meeting with Molly and Fincham face to face, now I had a meeting with them, and I said, look, you have to go to some special kind of certified paper that only the state has. And if ballots come in, if they're not on that paper, if they're printed on another paper, they are not valid. Well, somehow this multi-million-dollar operation that Katie Hobbs runs out there, they got a hold of blank paper, that's certified paper. And millions of these single dot ballots were printed in an operation that runs right there in Phoenix. And they just carry them over to the counting station and count them. And nobody stops them.
Treason is treason, and the penalty for treason, I wish I could just say what I really want to say, but
the penalty for treason is the death penalty, and it should be. There should be no prison sentence handed it out once they're convicted of treason against the United States. In my opinion, they should be publicly hanged so that everybody knows that the deed was done. Show their faces on camera, show them as they're getting marched up, show them as they're getting the hood put over their head, and showing them when the lever is pulled to prove that they got exactly what they deserved for their treasonous acts against this country.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, I can't say, it, but if you guys ever watch the Austin Powers movies where Dr. Evil is sitting there and his son goes, well, why don't you just, why do you have to hook him up to the sharks with the lasers? And why don't you just shoot him in the head? Just shoot him in the head. It's like, there you go. There you go. That's what I want to do. All right. Now, why is this important? Because if you have 57 votes in the Senate, guess what? You have basically enough of a majority that you can get any of your cabinet picks through. If you have 53, you have to worry about the Murkowskis and the Collinses and the filibusters. And so that leaves you with other options to fill out your cabinet, because the truth is the president cannot really act without his people in place at these various agencies, which is why it was really important not to get a rhino douchebag piece of shit like John Thune in as the Senate Majority Leader, which actually isn't an official position, by the way. But let's see what Thune had to say on the subject of appointments when he's not around in Congress.
So you've said that you would do recess appointments if it came to that. What's the threshold for getting to that point for recess appointments?
Well, what I said is, Brett, and I think this is that all options are on the table, including recess appointments. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll find out fairly quickly whether the Democrats want to play ball or not. And I think part of it is getting these folks. We'll start having confirmation hearings as soon as the new Senate is sworn in January. President takes the oath of office January 20th. By the time he takes the oath of office, hopefully a lot of those nominees will be through their confirmation hearings and will be ready to act on them on the Senate floor. And then it's a question of how much do the Democrats resist or object or try to block those nominations from going forward. And we're going to grind them out. I mean, we're just going to keep consistently moving, and we'll see what kind of cooperation we get. And then we'll, like I said, we'll make decisions about where do we go from there.
Okay. And again, this is important. Why? Well, because guess what? It appears, for instance, that Kash Patel, one of Donald Trump's best lieutenants, basically, is going to be appointed as the FBI director, which I don't think is subject to confirmation by the Senate. If I'm not mistaken, Brooks, you're more the constitutional scholar here, but if I'm not mistaken, that's not a cabinet level position.
Nope.
And also the Constitution doesn't say anything about Congress confirming president's cabinet picks. All it says is that he has to seek their advice and consent.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they get to vote on it and not let him go through, right? I mean, I don't think you could argue that. So
right. And even if that were the case, J.D. Vance is the president of the Senate. So in the case that the Senate cannot make a decision, what can happen is Congress can adjourn. And the Senate under Mitch McConnell never adjourned. They just said, well, we're going to take kind of a potty break. You know, we're not going to adjourn. That's how they beat Obama when he was a lame duck president and tried to get, Merrick Garland in as a Supreme Court justice. Mitch McConnell said, well, we're just not going to adjourn. We're not going to adjourn. We're having a potty break. We're still in session, and we're not going to give you your pick. So Obama's term expired without him being able to pick a Supreme Court justice. That's when McConnell kind of had all his corpuscles working. Now he doesn't. But if Congress adjourns, Article 1, Section 3 allows the vice president to adjourn the Senate. Actually, the president can order the adjournment of Senate because they're not agreeing on when to adjourn. When that happens, all the picks go through. Just like that.
There's even another process in there where you can appoint someone for 283 days or something.
Well, you can do what's called an acting secretary.
Acting secretary, right.
And they have all the authority. Hell, we don't even have a Secretary of Labor right now. We have an acting Secretary of Labor, Miss Sue, and she's been killing us with respect to green cards, to illegals, and it's just on and on and on. The acting secretary has all the power the secretary has without the Senate approval.
So when Thune says it depends on if the Democrats are going to play ball, they're not going to play ball. They're going to try to block every single one of these guys, especially the guys that they view, like Kash Patel, as existential threats to their criminal syndicate, the crime family of Washington, D.C. People say, well, Kash Patel would destroy the FBI. Yeah, guess what? That's the idea, okay? I mean, me personally, it's the whole point. But the guy they're really afraid of, and the nomination that really pisses him off, is Matt Gaetz as the Attorney General. And they have been saying anything and doing literally anything they can to stop the nomination of Matt Gaetz, including accusing him. I think he was showing his 17-year-old niece or something around DC, and they're saying, oh, he was having sex with a minor. Guess what? That kind of blew up in their faces over there at The View. Let's just enjoy this little bit right here.
On screen. Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism, that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back. On screen. Sonny.
We'll be right back. Oh, man, did they try to get out of that one?
Think about it is, Matt Gaetz is all in. He's all in. He's pushed all his chips in the middle of the table. He is going to be the Attorney General.
Yeah, because Trump can appoint him one way or another. And then it's scorched earth time. Blake, what do you think about these allegations against Matt Gaetz? And isn't it just the old Goebbels thing where you accuse the other person of that which you're guilty of? All the pedos in DC.
Yeah, I think he was exonerated for that, and I believe he was probably tried to get set up by a friend of his. I want to say it's Matthew Greenberg or something. So there was a 17-year-old. It looked like it was probably entrapment or blackmail. Like there was a whole big scandal blowing up, and they were trying to extort money from his family. But I was like, they kind of took him off the field for a while. He was kind of down for a few months, but then he got cleared of all the charges, and then he's come back stronger than ever. And he is a major threat to the deep state, and he has absolutely made the highest level people in these agencies squirm on Capitol Hill. So
like Christopher Wray.
Yeah, absolutely. So they do not want us. Now they're trying to like bring this back like it's new news. It's old news.
Yeah. Steve, if you were a cop, would you believe these? I don't know if you know much about the case, but would you, if it's been investigated for 3 years, does that necessarily mean he didn't bang a 17-year-old?
Well, I mean, in any in any investigation, you have to have evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the person did it. But if they went for 3 years and couldn't get enough evidence to take it to prosecution, then there's nothing there. I mean, you've got the full weight of the Federal Bureau of Investigations and every other agency in Washington, D.C. at your disposal to get evidence against this guy. And if you can't do it in 3 years, you're not going to do it in 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of people that have been falsely accused of shiz, guess what else happened today? This was really fun. This was really interesting. Pretty much out of nowhere, the charges against Donald Trump got completely dropped by the corrupt judge Merchan in New York. As Petros the General puts out, if he was so guilty, how do they just drop all the charges? Donald Trump's sentencing for 34 criminal charges in the state of New York was abruptly adjourned today by Judge Juan Merchan without explanation. All charges have been dropped, and the lawfare against Donald Trump is over. Is that exactly what this means, Brooks? It looks to me. Sorry.
No, I mean, okay. He could have come out and dropped the whole investigation, but instead he adjourned, sort of like, well, let's go to lunch for 4 years. So the case is still live. It's just adjourned, and Merchan can bring it back anytime he wants, like when Trump's term is up. So Trump still faces those charges. It's just a matter of, can Merchan stay alive long enough as a judge to make that case stick. Instead of adjourning, he needs to drop the case, but that's not what happened.
Okay, I thought we'd get clarification on that. Blake, any thoughts about these 34 ridiculous charges? And I just think we should, there's all kinds. Merchan has all kinds of conflicts of interest and probably should be impeached. Any hope that they're going to do anything like that with this guy?
Yeah, they should absolutely retaliate on him. He should have recused himself right away. He's clearly a biased, and he's an activist, and his daughter was an activist. This was part of a lawfare campaign. So as far as I'm concerned, he should be disbarred, and then he won't have any power anyway. But
he's an imported Colombian judge.
Yeah. Guess who he works for? I wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you think he works for? Any thoughts on that?
Well, obviously he works for the deep state, but if you look at the current administration, you keep hearing them say things like, let's just have a smooth transition. There should be no retaliation against the current administration for anything that's gone on in the last 4 years. Everybody should just walk away with a clean slate. Let's all be friends. So they know that with the people that Trump is trying to put into place, or will put into place, that they are going to get their asses handed to them, and they're trying everything they can do on their end to limit the damage. By him adjourning the case, he can then say, well, I didn't want the president to have any problems while he was in office. I adjourned the case. I'm a good guy. You need to leave me alone. There was also, I think, if memory serves, the Supreme Court actually said that they believed that everything that was brought up against Trump was malicious prosecution, and sanctions should be handed out to everybody who was involved.
Yeah, good luck with that, though. So, I mean, it feels like
if Trump gets in office, he gets the attorney general appointed. They most certainly can sanction him. They most certainly can go after him criminally for all of the things that they did wrong. So Trump has a very good chance to get rid of all these idiots once he takes office.
Yeah, and look, there's no question that if this guy has done more than just this. Okay, if he is this corrupt, then he has done a lot more than this. And I say, let's just let Matt Gaetz and the DOJ go after him and find out what other stuff he's been.
Well, all of them. I mean, that's the same with every one of these people. It's not just a one issue situation. I mean, they've been involved in so much criminal activity, so much corruption. You watch when he takes office, all the things that are going to come out to the general public of all the things that these people have done.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity actually to expose all this stuff. Brooks.
Well, by the way, looks like Steve's going to get his wish. The Trump administration, the Trump family, is suing every single officer personally that set foot on Mar-a-Lago, and this is totally being pushed by the First Lady, but it's going to go through.
And
the Supreme Court's going to let it happen because there's a Supreme Court decision called Bivens versus 4 unnamed FBI agents, and Bivens won. So they're suing under that precedent, and they're going to sue every single one of those officers.
This is great because this is what the Scientologists do: is they sue people personally. Even when the IRS was after them, they sued every single one of the IRS agents that was involved in the investigation. And these people had to go out and spend their own money and hire their own lawyers. And gosh, all of a sudden, Scientology was designated as a legitimate religion with tax exemptions. This is a great
thing about lawsuits is they can pull out more information than they can in a criminal case.
Yeah.
So, once this stuff starts coming to light and these guys are really looking at, like you said, hiring their own attorneys and losing everything that they have in these lawsuits, they start spilling their guts to try to divert the pressure off of themselves and put it on to other people, which brings other issues to the forefront, and they start working on those. So these lawsuits are very, very important to obtain more information than you can in an actual criminal trial, because they don't have the right to remain silent.
All right. That's true. They don't. Oh, look what happened to Corey Good. All right, boys. Anything else anybody else wants to talk about before we wrap up this show? I mean, I think the big thing right now to watch out for is World War III. Blake, you got any final thoughts?
I don't remember what else was in the news today, honestly, off the top of my head. I mean, it's obviously we're waiting to see the appointments. Hopefully we see Kash Patel. I know that there's supposed to be some kind of a bombshell FBI director, and that's all signs seem to be pointing towards him. So I like seeing that. And of course, there's going to be some hurdles for Matt Gaetz as the deep state is freaking out about that appointment. They're scared about many of these. I don't like the Rubio one, but that's a side issue. It's good that we have some interesting new cabinet members, assuming everything goes smoothly. But of course, it looks like the deep state is making their move, obviously, with this with this attack on Russia through their little puppet Zelensky. So we all have to be aware of that and prevent that from escalating any further. So,
yeah, I got some thoughts about the Rubio thing.
Okay, hit it.
Well, I think this is Operation Nikki Haley. What they're trying to do is move Rubio out of Florida as a senator so that DeSantis can replace him with another Republican senator. They've been trying to move Rubio out for a long time.
Right.
This is an opportunity for that to happen.
And Rubio's taking it because he thinks it's going to give him some gravitas on the international stage, so we can.
Well, it's going to give him the ability to raise money, just like it did Nikki Haley.
Okay, Steve, any thoughts about anything else going on in the news in the world right now that you would like to share?
Well, like I said, my thing is the deep state is not going to roll over. They're not going to go away. We're going to see some amazing things that we've never seen before in the coming weeks, up until and after President Trump is sworn as president of the United States. It's going to get ugly, and it's going to get mean. And like I said, it will boggle your mind, the things that you're going to see transpire in the next several months.
Well, there's one more thing of great hope. Today we officially entered the age of Aquarius.
Whoa.
And the end of the age is when the second coming of Christ begins. So there are great moves that are going to take place in redeeming the earth. We officially entered the age of Aquarius today.
And as an Aquarian, I'm all ready for that. And remember, guys, we're in the apocalypse. The apocalypse means the lifting of the veil. It is the lifting of the veil and the exposure of the truth that will cause the sovereignty, the global sovereignty movement to take off and everything to change. Guess what? The French get to be French again. The Americans get to be Americans again. It's feeling pretty good. Maybe that's why Elon launched today. Maybe he's following his astrology. I don't know.
I can't wait for mass deportations around the world.
Yep. It's going to be so much fun.
And it happened before. This isn't the first time it's happened.
No.
So it happened before, and so I can't wait to see it happen again.
Yeah, it'll be fun because we didn't get to see it on TV last time. All right, guys, thank you for being here. Everybody, thanks for the roundtable. Be concerned about World War III. Be concerned about those moves. Watch the financial markets tomorrow and Thursday, but more tomorrow. Just watch them. That's all I'm going to say. Watch them. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday. Stay masculine, ladies. You stay feminine. And get out there and make us a sandwich. We'll talk to you next week.